Hello, hello, hello.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
Welcome to another live stream of Wicked Opportunities live stream.
It's a little redundant.
Welcome to another edition of the Wicked Opportunities live online podcast. It is April 24th, 2025, and I hope, like us, you are still making it.
That was going like, because let's be clear. In April 24th, 2025, our expectations for making it right now,
exactly,
they're pretty low. So yeah, if you can hear my voice,
right,
that's awesome. You've made it. You've made it to April 24th, 2025. Don't call it a comeback.
You're making your way through the liminal spaces, as I heard this morning. We know people making their way through liminal spaces these days. So,
that can look like different things to
it can
different
take
people.
Different ways for different people.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, in our upcoming GFAC Live with Sonia Blacknot, she's going to be talking about ways finding and liminal spaces and all that good stuff. So I can't wait for that as well.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
Yep.
Yeah, we got a few things coming up. And this week we had another one of your Dragonfly Journey community of practice meetings.
We did. That was on Tuesday, and I never am quite sure what to call this meetings because discussion doesn't do it justice.
Yeah.
They're communions, really.
Yeah.
And the first one, everybody was a little bit more reserved and quiet because what
a little nervous.
What is this? What is this? But now, even just 2 months into this, and we're starting to learn that we can open up, and people are saying this is a safe space, and they're talking. And of course, the purpose of the Dragonfly Journey also is for us to lovingly and caringly and in an empathetic way challenge. Sort of what I like to call futuring to the system, instead of futuring to the system and the future as a linear mechanistic pathway that we're going to arrive at. It's really about walking down this path. Mentioning Sonia Blacknut again, and she's going to be, on the GFAC Live coming up. She was talking to Mushfika Jamaluddin, and they were
you just let those names it's very impressive, actually. And you do take the time to sort of
well, you gotta watch videos and say how do you, and I think I probably mispronounced the second.
I am it's my biggest thing. I know it's one of those things it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because I know I'm gonna mess it up.
No, it's
and
terrible.
so I mess myself up, and then and first name I can't even do first names sometimes.
No,
and then I just feel
I'm going to tell you right now that I've already said Sonia's name a couple of times, and if you go back and watch this again, you'll see every time saying it differently.
A little bit different because it's multiple choice. One of them will be right.
It's gonna be right.
Yeah, we have a as you know a public facing foundations program going on last week and this week, and there's somebody in the program that actually has their first name phonetically spelled out as part of their Zoom. Marcia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it looks like
Marsha. Yeah. And I thought, That's great. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
you know, Zoom
fantastic.
doesn't give you enough like
Yeah.
space to do that,
Yes.
but I mean,
Mine would be Frank.
yeah, yours is not hard.
Well, kind
Spencer. Yeah, no, you're good. Mine, however, even my first name sometimes trips people up.
it does because when somebody first meets you and they are a white male Western person, I've seen this happen sometimes
Yeah,
before. They'll call you Yvette.
yeah.
Yvette.
They take that Y very, very
Very seriously. It's
seriously.
like E. Well, how could that
What?
possibly be E?
Y is never a vowel.
Yeah,
What?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then
Hi,
the
Yvette.
and the rest of the name is
Ye
just
old vet.
it's just too many letters, and they
Oh
just
no, and the rest of it's like, and when you're flying, they shove Salvatierko and Montero and
yeah,
Salvatierko together. So always at the airport, it's always funny because they say Yvette Montero Salvatierko.
yeah. Or they just don't say
Yeah,
anything. They
yeah,
get
yeah.
scared.
Hi, Yvette, get on the plane. So,
Which is funny because like I don't think those last names are particular. I mean, because obviously I'm used to them, but like I don't know. We got off the track a little
we
bit.
did, and
A
the
little
point that I was going to make
a
was
little
that
witty banner here as we
Sonia,
have people join
Sonia
us. Yeah.
was saying that traditionally we like to either have a map or make a map. And this will relate to what we're talking about today a little bit.
Yeah.
That the truth of the matter is, together collectively, as we walk forward, we are the map.
Mm,
We walk into a map. And that really rings a lot more true than thinking that we can make a map and just follow it and everything will
yeah.
turn out.
Yeah.
Because, if you look at history and you look at our lives and you look at people and you look at the cosmos, it's a matter of together seeing what wants to emerge. And that takes us back to Tuesday, to the Dragonfly journey, because we were talking about collaboration
Yeah.
as an evolutionary process, finding out what wants to emerge. And I think that's going to blend beautifully to what we're talking about
The
today.
Dragonfly journey is really interesting because it's the first time we've done a community of practice like that. And unlike almost everything else we do, we don't record those, which is interesting.
Don't record those because, and I've had a couple of people say to me things like, oh, I understand, but they won't ask why we're not recording.
Yeah.
We said very clearly in the description of the Dragonfly Journey, if anybody were to ever read anything, which doesn't really happens these days, that we
Not it's
don't
not common
we
practice.
don't record because these are community safe spaces. This is communion.
Yeah.
And to record it just, it's like people can't speak freely and they
Yeah.
can't have that kind of communion. And also it just you would miss the point of
Yeah.
this a community of practice being something where we could be together. Even if we're online and we're looking at each other through Zoom, it's
Yeah.
people are actually there. So
No, for
this is
sure.
not
And I think too, like a true community of practice, like I think that's becoming clearly you're facilitating and leading that discussion as a thought leader, and we're talking about very, very powerful thought leaders in those discussions. But it's not something that you can watch back and
yeah,
get the value out of. It's
that's right.
not a passive experience.
It's
So I think
yeah,
that, that's one of the reasons why we do that. But again, this is why we do a lot of different things because we want to meet people,
where
wherever
they
they
are,
are and
where they
everything.
are.
And
And as we always say, meet people where they are, just don't leave them there. And I'm pointing at myself more than anybody else.
yeah,
It's like I don't want to be left there either. And so
yeah,
meeting people where they are doesn't mean keeping them there,
yeah,
or it's like that you're going to be there forever.
yeah.
Hi, Puka. I love the hello from Minnesota. We are layers of maps. That's
Hmm.
right. And that's what the Dragonfly Journey is all about. So if you're not familiar with the Dragonfly Journey, it's an ongoing thing. It's not just that we meet every other month for 90 minutes. We also, in between, watch videos of interviews we've done with thought leaders like Nora
Hmm.
Bateson and Sophie Strand and Bayo Kumalafe. And then we talk about those in discussion. And then we get ready for the next live online that is around another video. So
Yeah, and I was just gonna say that it's fun that we're gathering today for this live stream. Of course, we book these like super in advance. Like we know what the next six of them are.
that's right.
So we didn't necessarily plan this, but if you're a subscriber to our newsletter, then you likely already know that we're celebrating my TFSX's birthday, 2 years old. I would play the happy birthday song, but then it
Something's
will.
going on with the stream deck where that has all the like cow sounds and
No, but you
horns and
listen, but you can't play happy birthday because it
uh,
YouTube will, yeah. They won't let
Oh,
you.
suddenly we'll go silent. That won't be
So
good.
why don't you sing happy birthday?
Happy birthday to
I
you.
wonder if they're gonna
Happy
practice.
birthday. Yeah, I know. From just me singing
No,
it.
no, keep going, keep going.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. I sang it totally
Yeah,
different,
yeah,
so
yeah.
that it's
Yeah, there
not.
you go.
I think shouldn't that be open domain at this point? It should
At
be
this
nice.
point, what are we doing? Yeah, so my TFSX, my dot TFSX, which really began primarily as a learning management system and has continued to evolve like everything we do, is 2 years old. And it
That's
is
awesome.
an incredible asset, I think, not only to us, but to the foresight field. And because it is where if you come to any of our programs, it's where pre-work is housed and the
Mhm.
course content is housed all in one place. It has an incredible digital toolkit with workshop recipes, and this year we're really we're celebrating the 2-year birthday of my TFSX in a big way by investing and refocusing, redoubling our efforts on the community element of the
So nice.
platform.
Yeah.
So critical right now. And so if you want to join us on my TFSX, there's different ways to participate in that. And so as a guest, I think all of you are likely guests on my TFSX because you're watching this and you registered for this event and you probably heard about it through that. And that process allows you or has you create a free MyTFSX account. We've
That's right.
we've now gone over 2,500
That's
folks,
great.
which is great in 2 years,
It's
that are on
fantastic.
a free guest account, and you're welcome to just hang out on that free guest account. Of course, we have these live streams every month. We have our GFAC lives, and as a free guest, you register for those. You'll know that they're happening, and you have access to the most recent recorded version. The next layer is becoming a member of the collective. And the collective is basically how we're sort of imagining this community as activists, futurist activists. And those members of the collective gain additional access to the toolkit, to the Dragonfly journey, to the
Yes.
course that is following us along with these live streams.
Yeah, that's
So the
right.
live streams will continue to be open to everyone. However, if you are looking to have a more curated experience with these live streams this year and thrive in uncertainty is how we are sort of labeling it. We have a course on MyTFSX that is free for members of the collective, and you could follow along. You can listen to the podcast that we're going to be chatting about today, and every live stream, and just sort of follow along and have a more intentional path forward if that's something that you're interested in addition to being part of the Dragonflies journey as part of your membership. And that's
Awesome.
$165 a year membership. So the toolkit and these additional courses and the ability to message and connect with others on the community. And now we're going to have a third level, which is really exciting to celebrate the second year birthday of the platform is the host level.
Mm.
So hosts of MyTFSX are going to be allowed to facilitate licensed turnkey content in the form of 30-day challenges for their communities. So we're expanding our community by tapping into your community. So if you're an alumni or if you're a certification holder, you're eligible to become a host and to facilitate these licensed turnkey content. And you earn a revenue share. You get access to special development and a subset of the community of other hosts that are really, really great. So we're going to have a free informational webinar about the host level. So if you're interested in joining us, we've got the chat in or the chat, right?
It's in the
We
chat.
just dropped it in the chat. So register for that. There's no obligation to register. And if you just want to learn more, even if you're not an alumni or certified at this point, I would encourage you, if this is something that's resonating with you, to come and join us and find out how you could become a host. It's a great way to activate your community, your network. It's a great way to establish yourself further as a thought leader. Maybe you're looking to establish your practice. This is a great way to start, your Rolodex. If you're my age, you know what that is, of potential clients and prospects, and just a way to invest in yourself and development while also building a business. So we're really excited about the host program, and that webinar will be in May, so just a couple weeks from now. And so, yeah, so I just wanted to acknowledge happy birthday, my TFSX. I don't think we could have ever imagined even 2 years ago where we could be with that platform. And we're just so proud of everything that has come out of it. And just to see it grow every single day is just really, really powerful. I think
Amazing.
we need communities now more than ever.
That's
And
right.
Foresight definitely needs a community space. So if you have found your way to our community space, we're so happy to have you there. Please tell a friend, and let us know if you have any questions about that. So I just wanted to sort of acknowledge happy birthday, my
Happy
TFSX.
birthday. Happy birthday.
You have to take time to have a little joy.
You have to take
Joy, people.
plenty of time to have joy. As a matter of fact, you're going to be surprised by this. But as I was dozing off to sleep last night,
Okay.
and I was not quite in that liminal space yet. See how many times I can use
That's
that
the word
today.
of the
Yeah,
day.
word du jour. Um, I was thinking, I just had this, you know, I actually last night, does anybody know what a Shakti pad is? I got on my Shakti pad last
Oh, is
night.
that the one with the
It's a bed of
needles?
nails.
Yeah.
It's a bed of nails. I thought that might help me out a little bit because I've been having some lower back pain. I don't know that it did, but it does hurt. I was like, it hurt more than the back pain. So at least it took
And
the
so
back.
what does that have to do with joy?
So I was laying on the Shakti pad because it's supposed to just really relax you and the endorphins are flowing. And I started thinking about how much, how impactful you are to our community and
Hmm.
beyond.
I could say the same for you, sir.
Well, yeah, of course, but just hear me out though, because like I wasn't the head futurist at the Walt Disney Company Parks and Resorts,
Okay.
and it, I'm saying this, but I'm sure many people in our community are so grateful for you. But I was just thinking about how much, in a manner of speaking, you gave up to come do this. And I know you loved your time at the Walt Disney Company. You were there almost 15 years, and what a great company to work for. And you did some amazing work there. And then you just had this passion and this desire. And sometimes I make Yvette's life, Yvette's life really
Yeah,
hard.
bet. If you were listening from the
And
top
so,
of the
and
hour.
if I were her, I'd be like, "Oof, I miss my days at the Walt Disney Company." But no, I know she's super passionate about this work, and she loves me and Nicole and Ashley and all the people that are here, and she loves all of you so much, and she is just such a powerhouse in this field. And so, besides happy birthday to my TFSX,
It's almost my birthday, but not quite.
happy birthday to almost happy birthday.
Almost happy
May
birthday.
5th, if anybody wants to send
Cinco de Mayo,
a
baby.
gift or a card, May 5th.
I'm at the age where it's like you're not counting down to your birthday.
No,
There's a lot of change happening in the world and in my personal life this year. So
yeah,
I haven't even thought honestly about the birthday,
yeah.
but yeah, no, it's good. Thank you so much. It's been a wild ride, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. So, but let's chat. Let's chat about this month's topic of the live stream. So again, if you're following along and you're thriving in uncertain times with us, then you know that this month's theme for this live stream is about moving away from the wicked problem of generational warfare toward the wicked opportunity of the people cloud. And again, if you're interested in diving deeper into this topic, we'd encourage you to either join us on the collective as a member and gain access to that course, or you can find the live streams from our first collection of podcast, or excuse me, you could find the recordings from the first collection of our podcast. This would have been month two. So episodes 5, 6, 7, and 8. 5, 6, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Fosse, jazz
Yes.
hands.
And so you can listen to those again. The goal would be if you want to listen ahead of time, then
Yes.
you can contribute in these live
Yeah.
streams. So at the end of this live stream, we'll tease what's happening next, which I have to
Right.
remind myself what that is because I don't really know, but I will by the time it's time for us to tease it. Anywho, so the goal would be to sort of re-listen to those. Now, you might be thinking, gosh, we're digging up old podcasts. Like what did we run out of stuff to say? No, no, we did not. However, that first collection of podcasts that we did
Yeah.
at the height, well, one of the heights of the pandemic, was 7 months. It was 4 episodes each month.
That's right.
And I think it's some of the best work we've ever done. And when
And it
we,
parallels the 7 shifts that we've been talking about for
for
years. That
years,
has appeared in Rotman Management Magazine,
yes,
Fast Company Online.
yeah.
There's been many places that we published this 7 shifts in the age of opportunity. And so you'll see that in the course. And again, you need to this course to how to thrive in uncertain
Yeah, and
times. So powerful.
I would just say that you know, we sat down at the beginning of this calendar year and even at the end of last calendar year and just really wanted to ask ourselves, what are we doing in this critical time in history toward the support of humanity across our country where we live and where we were born and the world. And this is one of the reasons why we've doubled down on the community aspect of My TFSX with the collective.
Absolutely.
And it's a big reason why we decided that the live streams in 2025 would harken back to those original podcasts because we need to have an activist perspective in our foresight work.
That's right.
We need to shift the narrative
That's right.
from what we're hearing, even those, and I applaud them, and I'm one of them out there protesting, out there calling my representatives, out there trying to be vocal, even those people, we need to have moments of time when we talk about hope and we talk about the future we want to build. If not, we're only workshopping someone else's future, and it just makes it far easier for us to fall in line
Mm,
for those dystopic
mm.
endings, which we don't want. So we made an intentional, thoughtful decision to say we want to go back to those original podcasts, that original collection of podcasts that we love and talk about those topics which are still 100% relevant today and provide some new thinking, some more current time examples and perspectives on it for those of you that want to continue to grow alongside us. And this is what we're doing along with our general foresight work, to again to just be able to look back at this time and say we left it all on the field. We did what we
Awesome.
did, and we're so lucky. Again, I've said this before. Gosh, I've never been happier and more pleased to be a futurist, to be a foresight professional, because if I was still working at Disney as a finance professional, let's say, I would still be thinking about how I could support, my community. But I think it would be like I'd have to do it outside of my day job. Not too many
Right.
people can say their day job is the activism. And so if you're listening to us and you're part of our community, I'm going to encourage you, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing,
That's right.
to find ways using your craft of foresight and futures thinking to influence people, to help people, to shepherd better futures, to build bridges with people with differing perspectives. We're going to talk a lot about that today. And so that's what we're doing during these live streams. So this month is the collection of podcasts, the second month of that first collection. And it has to do with shifting away from this idea of generational theory and generational warfare. And that's why we said, okay, boomer, as part of the visual.
Yeah. Of course, a couple of years ago, this idea of okay boomer was popular online. Um, but even that, it's not really accurate,
It's
right?
so everything's a meme, and it's like,
To
I mean,
memeify everything.
it's tough because we all know attention spans, they aren't what they used to be. So like
In this economy?
in this economy, and so again though, this is why this collection is so powerful. If you're not familiar with the way that we approached each month back in 2020 when these were recorded, 2020 and 2021, I think.
Hmm.
We did CLA the first week. We walked through the CLA tool to get from a wicked problem to a wicked opportunity. Then we did a bridge of trends with 6 degrees, and then we talked about the point of impact questions, and then we talked in the create phase, and there was a visual map, a graphic that went with each one,
Yeah,
and that's all been curated in that course
that's
online
right.
as part of the collective membership.
It's so good.
But I was gonna say that for this particular one, the CLA is so good.
Yeah,
It's so good.
so good, so good.
I mean, I should share it. Like, I have it up here. I could share it on here.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, let's see. But so we're not gonna just we're not rehashing obviously what we already spoke about. I'm hoping this is working. We're not going to rehash what was already spoken about, but it is interesting to talk about how we use CLA to get from this idea of generational warfare, what we were calling the wicked problem, this idea that, depending on when you were born, you are part of a certain generation. And we've all heard boomers and millennials and Gen X and Gen Y and net generation. I don't know.
I
It's so
love how
hard
at
to
the
keep
top of the
track.
ceiling you can see the different
The
silos of that.
silos,
So
alpha.
boomers, Gen X, and then the millennials and Alpha
Yeah.
and
We
Z's.
used to
Yeah,
joke that you could like if you Google generational, theory, it would give you 30,000 books
yeah.
and
Well, I think
like
on Amazon
so
it
many
comes out around
consultants. And
30,000.
so anyway, so we use CLA early on to get, down to the narrative. This is where I was going with it. It's like the memification and really speaks to the fact that stories and, we prefer it to be a little bit longer, more nuanced story, but, we'll take what we can get. But stories are what move people.
That's
And
right.
so it is not a bug, it's a feature that we are constantly bombarded with narratives about division.
Constantly.
I mean, it is exhausting.
It's
And
in
once
everything. It
and
manifests in
and
everything.
once you see it, it's
Yeah.
like the red car. You're like, "Oh my gosh,
Here
it
comes the
is
styling
everywhere."
again. Yeah.
Right.
It's in
So if
everything.
it's not boomers,
All the way down
millennials,
to hyper individualism. It's
yeah.
like you are alone. You are an individual. You are a consumer.
Yeah.
You are, extractive. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah,
So if it's not boomers and Gen X, it's the political party you hold.
absolutely.
It's, where you live in the world. There's all of these things that just continue
Yeah.
to
To come.
push that narrative. And so again, this is why um it's so powerful to use foresight tools and unpack what is at the cusp, what is at the tip of the iceberg, because if not, you're just talking past each other, and it's just so easy to just glom on to the siloing of people and of ideas and of things and of you versus me. The first month we talked about scarcity and abundance, and these all link together. Honestly, they're all, part of the same mesh of fabric, But yeah, this concept, if you can, again, just CLA alone, and you don't have to pull out a chart. I mean, just thinking through the levels, if you can impart in someone the ability to do that, the tool to do that, the method to do that,
Yeah.
it makes such a difference in our world to know that, okay, I'm just dealing with the headline here. I need to look beyond the data
Mhm.
to see the story behind it, and then I
Yeah.
can reframe it.
Speaking of that, the first one being scarcity to abundance,
Yes.
and there's something else I want to say too, so I hope I remember. But there is a relatively new book out called Abundance. What is the gentleman's name? Is it Ezra Klein? That anyway, I might be mixing up two different people here, but he wrote this book and he's on a tour right now. He went on Bill Maher and he's on all
Mhm.
the shows and he wrote Abundance and he was like, we need an abundance mindset. And it's so funny because that book is getting attacked by intellectuals so much. because it's so funny the way he's framing abundance is from a scarcity mindset.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's like so it's just right back to like, oh, we need more, capitalistic construction and blah 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 and all this, and it's like it's just the opposite of what really we say we mean when we talk about abundance, because abundance is not just about an abundance of resources, an abundance of money. It's an abundant mindset that frees us from the crisis mentality, right? That doesn't mean there isn't a crisis. It
Yeah.
means that if you only operate under a crisis mindset, you just exacerbate
Yeah.
that thing over and over
It's the
again.
same
So,
thing as operating out of fear. The creator, and I know we all follow her. She's like every day she does three things and she just has a chart behind her.
yes,
She's
yes.
very soft spoken. She looks like she's about to cry every day, bless her heart. But today, her video, I think it was from yesterday. Um, she either offers resources or whatever. But today she said, there is enough. That was her first thing. There is enough. There's enough, resources are enough. And
Even that, yeah, that's true.
it's like it's
There's enough.
so
And that's
interesting.
this word enough is so powerful because, people like Bernie Sanders, for instance, political, but so many other people are saying it's like it's about enough. Do you ever get enough? And now in this oligarchic age, it's like oligarchy is about I never have enough,
Mm.
but I don't care whether you have enough, and it's like so
God,
that's it.
yeah. I mean, we go all down
Yeah,
a whole
that's
path.
a whole
Anyway,
different topic.
so generational warfare comes from the idea of generational theory, which there's so many things we could say about it. But you pulled out a recent article that talks a little bit about
It's not really
oh, it's not recent.
recent.
Okay, I thought it was recent. My
No,
apologies.
it's okay though. It's
It's
from 2020, which
okay,
is
so
interesting because it was the
not
same
recent.
about the same year. And this was interesting because from like 2014 to 2020, you were seeing a plethora of articles that was really saying like, here's the flaws and the holes in generational theory. And then it seems like over the last 5 years that is sort of just like it got said enough, I guess, or something. I
Mhm.
don't know. Generational theory and generational consulting hasn't fallen off at all. If anything, it's only gotten more popular. And now we've got like a whole what did they do during the pandemic and the pandemic baby and all the stuff you just
I really honestly think at its core, this stuff, and you're going to talk about some of the interesting beginnings of it, but
yeah.
I honestly think the reason why stuff like this is popular is as basic as people like simple, rudimentary labels and ways of organizing
Well,
life.
you just said it because it's easy because first of all, we do know there is such a thing as like group experience and,
Of course.
personalities. I have a personality, your personality. Those things are real. And so to then conflate that with a
Yeah.
siloed, that's what you were just saying. It's
Yeah.
like it's easy to gravitate to it because we can say, oh, look, we are siloing these things again, linearizing and mechanizing these things.
It's
And that's not how life works.
I
It's
know.
not how life
It's
works.
ultimately, a really a symptom of our reaction to increasing complexity
Yeah.
and our fear around that and our desire, again, and this goes way back and from an industrial age perspective, certainly reflects that transition to quote unquote efficient systems and assembly lines and capitalism and all of that good stuff. Like it's all interrelated. Like it's just always about capitalism. Like why is it always about
Well,
capitalism?
because it always comes back to modernity, coloniality is what
Yeah.
Vanessa Machado de Oliveira Andriotti said.
Oh my
So she
gosh.
recently got married, so Andriotti is on the and
What?
now
Well, first of all, how do you remember all the
Vanessa
names?
Machado de Oliveira Andriotti. She wrote Hospice y
You
Modernity
need to say en el nombre de
in el
Jesús.
nombre de Jesucristo. Uh, and um, and she wrote the book Hospice y Modernity. She has a new book coming out pretty soon called Outgrowing Modernity. And alongside it, she's launching an online platform called Underworld, where she says like it's the year 2065 and we've gone underground now and we're sharing resources, but the planet's not habitable above because it's da da da. And she's like, and we're trying to use scenarios to help people to see what it is that we want to avoid,
Yeah.
what world we want to build. So it's really interesting. Um,
So, did you want to share a little bit about
I
sitting here?
did, and I forgot what I was going to say about Vanessa, but capitalism?
Yeah.
It always comes back to
Just
modernity, coloniality.
it just
Yeah,
say capitalism.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
if all else fails.
Capitalism is the economic system that modernity, coloniality thrives under because it can continue to say that you must be subservient to the system
Hmm.
instead of the other way around. Um, but Andrew Hart wrote about 5 years ago an article called Against Generational Politics. And this is early in the article, he's saying what you were saying a few minutes ago about these generations. He says the characters in this story will be familiar to anyone who's ever skimmed the Bloomberg headlines or found themselves in an unsettling large number of places where a wall mounted flat screen plays a muted CNBC program with a closed captioning on. There's the eminence Greece, known as the silent generation, who watches the others with reserved disdain. The profligate individualist boomer generation, whose cartoonish ability to convince himself that his self-interest aligns with the greater good makes everyone else hate him. Then there's the thinly drawn caricature of middle child syndrome known as the Xers.
I'm a middle child Xer. What does that mean?
And
I'm a
attention,
middle child Xer Taurus.
yes. Woo.
I mean, it's a triple threat.
Triple threat. An attention-starved, grown-up, latchkey kid who's constantly aggrieved that the others won't make more mention of him or her.
Because we're the
Yeah,
smallest.
yeah. There's the millennial whipping boy whose sloth and entitlement knows no bounds
So
and whose
ridiculous.
mercurial whims place beloved cultural institutions such as Applebee's in constant peril.
Oh my gosh.
And then there's Gen Z, the child who carried on the current of his inscrutable motivations, only stops playing Minecraft long enough to snack on laundry detergent in hopes of anchoring fame online. I love
These summaries
that.
are
It's so good.
so funny.
But he goes on to say, so did you know? And this is not completely accurate, by the way, because millennial generational theory existed before Strauss and Howe. But when Strauss and Howe started writing some of their famous books, Generations, and then later when died, Howe went on to continue to write like millennials in education, millennials in the grocery store, millennials, because he got out of the academic and went into consulting. He got really pissy about it because he was like, well, the academics keep saying bad things about me, but everybody in companies wants more of this, so I'm going to sell it. I'm not going to try to teach it. I'm going to sell it. And then the academics, got onto him and said, and this is a war of, the consultants versus the academics, something that you want to stand on the sideline of and watch from a
Yeah,
distance while
pop
they
the
both kill
popcorn.
each other. Um, and and basically they were saying, well, yeah, because it got popularized and it's like another thing to sell. It's another product to sell. But I love that, what he says here because it's like Strauss and Howe, by the way, were DC think tank people who are right-leaning centrists who were looking to find ways to balance the budget. And together they met each other and they were like, you know what? If we start writing about this, what we can do is instead of saying, let's write about history and how it impacted people, we're going to flip it and say that generations define history.
Mm,
And one of the biggest criticisms about generational theory is that there are some things in their writing that's like, ooh, it looks pretty prescient and pretty predictive. And of course, if you write enough, then you'll get there. And that doesn't mean that you can't recognize some things, just like we were talking about
yeah,
earlier. But the great majority of things they said either didn't come to pass or just don't hold water in any way because it's just not how reality works.
right.
And um, and um, and so, they wrote all this stuff in generations and places like that. And I wanted to read just a couple of quotes from this
Well,
article. Go
it
ahead.
made me think like, and I don't want to make anybody upset, but like, the whole idea of the history repeats itself. We were talking about it before we started the live stream about how part of this is that every so often, every so many years, whatever.
That was the Strauss and Howe theory. It's like
Yeah.
there's four generations, there's only four,
Yeah.
and they're going to
It
repeat
cycles
themselves.
through.
And so then he would start telling people, it's like, you know what? I shouldn't say company name. You know what hamburger store?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're in the hero generation.
Yeah.
So all of your posters need to be about heroes now.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
need to like hero advertisements, and that's
Yeah.
what they would do.
Well, it makes me think about, the astrologists that are like,
Yep, yep,
when
yep.
such and such is rising. And so
Yeah.
like
When you're in a Mercury,
we're in the liminal phase. If we bring it full circle, I'll say it again. You know what? We should make it so that
which if you combine astrology with
listen,
generational theory, you
listen.
might be able to
For
something.
those of you that are listening carefully and aren't like speeding through the recording or like whatever, here's the word liminal.
Living
Now, if you email us liminal to info@TFSX and you're not already a member of the collective, I'll give you a discount for that membership. All
Wow.
you have to do is
Now we will
say
see.
liminal. So if you're listening
It's like
carefully and you caught this,
respond yes if you are coming to your appointment today.
we'll do we'll do a discount on your
Liminal. Just write the word liminal.
liminal, and we'll
But you have to email it
yeah,
at
info@tfsx.com. Okay,
info@tfsx.com.
we'll see.
That should be interesting.
The password
I
is
love that.
liminal.
That's a great show. I love that password. Um, so the reason I wanted to read just a couple of other quotes from this article is because um, Andrew, is that what I said? Andrew Hart, he says, one of the things is it was always about the future. He's like, but every generation cares about the future. And so it really ties in, obviously. And so he goes on later in the article to say, the assertion that any one attitude characterizes a particular period is hopelessly unfalsifiable. And Strauss and Howes rarely descend from their armchairs to provide solid evidence for historical comparison. Many of Strauss and Howes' conclusions seem to betray the author's desire to fit the past to their model instead of the other way around. So it's like force fitting it,
Yeah.
right? The benefits of laying hundreds of pages of historical groundwork become clear in the book's concluding chapter entitled Completing the Millennial Cycle. If history has unfolded in recurring patterns, extrapolating those patterns will divine the future. And then I think there was one more passage I wanted to read here. It might have been at the very end.
That's so funny. So the whole
Yeah,
core of it was to try
yeah,
to be
yeah. This
predictive
is it.
and to um,
Absolutely. It's all about prediction. Yeah, it's
mm,
all about
I had no
prediction.
idea.
And
Interesting.
so Strauss and Howe theory, this is the last quote, depends on two assumptions. You're going to like this. The first, as laid out above, is that history unfolds in recurring patterns, a claim that requires bizarre historical comparisons. The second, that generations are coherent concepts to even begin with, requires equally painful contortions. Strauss and Howe have filled thousands of pages arguing for the theory of history, but they have spent far less time justifying the group essentialism that underlies that project. So what we're talking about here today is, that siloing again of generational warfare, because it's so easy to sell that and understand things from a silo perspective. But the reason that we talked about maps when we first started off is this idea that, we we're much more complex than that. And there is a greater coherence to the way that we move together
Yeah.
through time. As a matter of fact, you could go back in ancient history and find out that older people are always decrying the younger generation.
Yeah, exactly.
Always decrying the
Exactly.
younger generation.
Exactly.
But modernity, coloniality reinforces that separation.
Yeah.
And so we do ourselves a great service. This is what I was going to say earlier, to instead of focusing on trends, to look at larger concepts of transformational emergence and change. And so that's why this course is so powerful, because it doesn't say, here's a trend. It says, this is the way modernity coloniality presents something and separates us. Here is an alternative transformational reality that we can live in.
Yes.
And that's a much more powerful way to approach futures, because one of the problems with foresight and futures is we get so object oriented We forget that we can present that this did not come down from heaven, this way that we're living. There are alternative realities to live in. And when we start focusing on and present those transformational realities as alternative realities, then we can transition through the cracks of these systems that we're in into new realities that connect us to live much better, holistic lives.
Yeah, it's the
So
push and pull of the future.
that's
So
right.
it's like it's super easy to fall into the trap of like, God, this is happening to us and reacting
Yes.
to, good or bad, the things that are popping up in our feeds every day, day after day.
Yep.
And as futurists, of course, we're mining that data. I get that. But sometimes, oftentimes, futurists lose sight of the pull end of the future. And that's the part where we're really asking ourselves, what future do we want to create? And what future do we want to pull ourselves to? More importantly, what future do we want to pull to today? And so I think that's where we landed on the wicked opportunity of the people cloud. And we've been talking about the people cloud for a long, long time in lots of different contexts. I think originally it was a lot of it had to do with how ways of working. And back then, cloud wasn't just a play on the idea of the information cloud, and saying that people were going to become as accessible to one another and organizations as that. But we also had an acronym, CLOUD, because, why not? Collaborative, linked, open, ubiquitous, and disruptive. And
Still good.
it's still good. And
Still good.
this was all before COVID. That cloud acronym,
Yeah.
the concept of the people cloud,
It makes even more sense now than it did then.
was before COVID, which is really interesting. And I think that in 2025, the addendum, the addition that we would have to the people cloud would likely be around the community centric aspect of it and the aspect, the consciousness aspect of it, and that it's not just about working for multiple entities,
Yeah.
because we really do need to decenter work from
Well,
our freaking
you already said
conversation.
decenter capitalism,
Yeah.
decenter modernity,
Yeah.
decenter futurity. This idea that there is a linear future and modernity, coloniality, capitalism has an official future that's floating in your head and in my head and in all of our heads. And we're sort of like, yeah, it's the old joke, where's my jetpack? Where's my, it's like this is the future, walk ye in it.
Yeah.
And that's not the case.
Yeah.
And so there is a sense of the official future that needs to be hospiced. And I love that you brought up the consciousness piece, because another thing that generational warfare does is it stops us from moving together collectively, human kin, planet cosmos, the all of us of Benita Roy. It stops us from transitioning into greater dimensions of consciousness, because we're not going to be able to do that in silos. So we'll never elevate consciousness if it's like there's a hero generation and there's a prophet generation. It will never happen. You're just cycling this thing over and over again. And it's just such a sad way of viewing life.
Yeah.
And so I love that, we went from the warfare to the cloud,
Yeah. Yeah.
from
Yeah.
a warfare future to a cloud future.
Hmm.
And when and this is what the Dragonfly journey does too. It says like it's not about trend hunting, it's about imaginal anticipation, which is a biological, psychological, social, and sacred dynamic of all living things. Trends are not those things. Trends do exist. I agree 100%, but I think we do ourselves a greater service these days in trend hunting to say this is what the system is presenting to us that will unfold if nothing changes. This is the cracks. This is how we do change.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's back to that, dominant narrative and how
it's back to
much
dominant
we're
narrative.
just
That's right.
playing into that dominant
Yeah.
narrative. And
Where are these things born and what can be born of a different system?
yeah, and ask yourself who benefits from the siloing of humanity, whether it's in
Ooh,
generations
so good.
or
So
in,
good.
political
Yeah.
affiliations or, religious affiliation or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Who benefits from that?
Yeah.
Who benefits from putting us in teams? It's certainly not us, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I just think that if we could, and at the end of the day, we know that there's going to be communities centered on different ideas and topics, but this notion that based on the year of your birth, that somehow you that is how you're defined,
Yep.
and you're pitted against somebody, you know, who was born in a different era,
Yeah.
whatever. And the whole
It's
concept of
wild.
how fast world is changing too really puts that generational
Yeah, the
theory at
blendedness, the
odds.
entanglement. How do you have a generational theory in an entangled universe? Could you imagine if trees were siloed by
Mm.
generations? If animals were siloed by
Yeah,
generations? The
it's
meadow would never exist. And so meadows can't exist where there is siloing.
yeah.
And the meadow is what matters in the end, and you don't have a meadow without all the pieces. As a matter of fact, Puka says the cracks are the ecotones where the living energy emerges. An ecotone, the space between two ecosystems.
Mm,
And that's where all the goodness happens, where one ecosystem meets another is where change, transformational change takes place. And then, Robin Beer says decentralized capitalism, repeat what we're saying, and
yeah,
center contribution.
love that.
But I want to hang on just for a moment this idea of decentering capitalism because it's two easy words to say,
Yeah,
but it's harder to put into practice. And we all live in capitalism,
yeah,
and it's hard to get out of it completely because I owe rent, a mortgage, bills,
yeah,
the grocery store demands that I have to pay cash to buy my food and those kinds of things, right? And so we live in capitalism while still trying to hospice it at the same time.
mm,
And so we're not pointing fingers at anybody because we know that you're living in capitalism. So am
yeah,
I.
yeah,
And so we're a bridge generation of, multi-generational, a bridge
yeah.
multi-generational. But I want to hang on this for one more second again too, because what does that really mean to decenter capitalism? And we could do a whole year
A whole year on that.
this of just what does it mean? Because it's so easy to say that, but what does it mean to decenter capitalism? And especially in our futuring, because when we're foresighting and futuring,
Mm,
mm, and then we start presenting
mm,
people with trends that were born explicitly out of and for the purpose of capitalism, then to decenter capitalism in foresight means to no longer center those trends. And this week, our good friend Amalia Deloney, she wrote
oh
an
yes.
article called "From Input to Interbeing" and posted it on the Association of Professional Futures website, so you can find it there. And it's so powerful because at the beginning she says, "This is the dragonfly's journey."
That was your favorite part.
That's my favorite. And so she talks about holoptic foresight dynamics, but then she goes on to say it's like in our foresight work, we've got to transition from input, like we're just treating people as information and data and insights and trends. And she's basically talking about generational warfare
Yeah,
to interbeing, which is the cloud.
yeah.
It's like there's space, the ecotones, the spaces in between, what happens when we're entangled with one another. As a matter of fact, Jen Bersili this week also wrote an article, similar article. I found a whole bunch of good articles this week.
Yeah, you've been
I
out
did.
there.
And she is a professor at Boston U and Tufts, and I think she might teach at Harvard a little bit. If I got that wrong, that just goes to show how much I respect her work. So and she was saying that, again, we can't think in systems as silos. If I do more of X, then I'll get more of Y. If I do more of Y, I'll get more of Z. But she said, no, it's about itchiness, blurriness, entanglement, messiness, getting down into the swamps.
Mm,
And this is what the cloud's all about: collaborative, linked, ubiquitous,
open.
open, and disruptive, right? It's about messiness. And so there's no way that I can say you were Generation X and I'm a boomer and blah blah blah. It just won't work because the world is messy, and that messiness, the ecotones, is where all the goodness
Yeah,
comes
we
from.
have more access to one another.
Yes, that's right.
We're able to collaborate on all different things, passions. I mean, it's really selling us all
All
short
short, selling us short.
to think that we have to stay in our lane, our proverbial lane. So, if for no other reason than to fight against that, it's worth, challenging the conversation. And look, we all do it. We all, share the memes or, um, laugh about sort of some of the funny takes and
Sure.
stereotypes, but ultimately, that's contributing to that same narrative. So I think that acknowledging that again, back full circle to the first thing that we said at the top of this hour, which is, if we're not careful, we're workshopping somebody else's future or a
Yep.
more dystopic future, and we definitely don't want to do that. So I love this idea of the people cloud. I'm sure you all and you've been sharing in the chat other ways to frame a wicked opportunity future that can come out of or away from generational warfare. So I hope that you all will continue to share those ideas online with us and the
I feel
like.
like we're just getting going into the conversation. It's already the time
I
for us to
know
end.
it goes by real
It goes by
fast.
really fast because now I'm just getting all jazzed up about what is the real work of foresight and how do we really see if you can put up that article to TFSX help Nicole from Jen Brasili. I think she put it on Medium as well. Jen Brisselli. I can't remember the
BRI.
name of the articles. I'm
How do
sorry.
you spell BRI?
Brisselli Brasili. Um, there she is. She works for a company. Her company's called Topology, but she teaches at Tufts and um but anyway, I was going to say, what is the real? This is not it, but it's
No, I know.
letter to a young systems thinker. That was it. It's like letter to a poet from Rilke. It's a great article. It's so good. It's so good. Um, I love that selling short is a perfect metaphorical illusion. Thank you. I added to my read the surplus gloss. That's great. Um, what is the real work of futures and foresight? And I really believe that it is imaginal anticipation. It is not base trend hunting. So this is a whole different topic. What is the value of trend hunting and foresight? But when we only make foresight about trend hunting, all we're doing is workshopping to the system.
Yeah.
And so it can't be about foresight is not about trend hunting. That is an aspect of our futures work and putting it in its place and using it for its right purpose. That the ultimate goal actually is imaginal anticipation, and that's why again this course is so powerful. How to thrive in uncertain times, because it's really about creating futures that free us, looking through the cracks, what's in the spaces in between the ecotones, and imagining futures beyond the system that we live in. And that's so much more powerful.
Yeah. So as we're closing out our live stream, while we still have folks, I know people jump at the end here, just want to tease our next live stream, which is happening on May 29th. So it's a little over a month till our next one. We're calling it Fake News.
That's
Fake
good. I like it.
news.
Hell, bit fake news.
But it's
Fake.
this was
That's a phrase that's morphed every time too now.
fake news.
Yeah, well,
Oh
I mean,
no, I
10
know.
years ago it's fake
Oh,
news. Now
I
fake
know.
news, and
No,
you got the
I know.
fake news. Well, you're the fake.
No, I know. It's awful,
And now we
actually.
actually make fake news because there literally is fake news now.
So, but this was one of the more popular months of that first
That's
collection,
right.
and it was moving from the wicked problem of analysis paralysis to the wicked opportunity of co-creative emergence. And this one, I remember when we first published these four podcasts, was one of the more popular ones, and really speaks to, the desire to quantify everything and what that means and how that keeps us tied
Again, yeah,
again to the dominant systems.
yeah.
And so, yeah, so we hope you'll join us. And again, if you want to make the most out of the experience, we would love for you all to join us as members of the collective, where you'll gain access to the course where we've curated not only the podcast, but additional information about each theme, as well as the map. And it'll allow you to have just an even better experience. So if you watch, or excuse me, listen to those podcasts in advance of May 29th, then you'll be ready to hit the ground running, and we could have a two-way conversation on these live stream, which we would love. But in the meantime, thank you all for joining, or if you're watching on the recording, it's great to see you all. And we had a great time chatting about this topic. It's always great to spend some time talking about
It's always great.
and stretching our minds around these super important topics and giving people a bit of hope as we, continue down this path. And yeah,
I could sit here with you and do this all day, and Nicole, and just obviously you all can see again. This is how I started the show, and I'm just going to end this way too. It's like a vet's mind is just a
Oh, stop.
treasure trove of
Stop.
goodness, and
Um,
it's just so good. So I'm
we'll
so
see you all
appreciative
on
so
May
appreciative for all of you.
29th, is our next live stream. So join us. Register ahead of time if you can. We'll be back here at 12 o'clock Eastern time. Until then, you all take care.
Bye bye.
Bye, everybody.